Hi, Miss Lufla.
Hi, Miss Ban Ban.
Hi, Gavin.
Okay, so, right, welcome to Tech and Talk. As we all know, Hong Kong is a very resourceful city, but how can we make good use of these resources to teach our future generations? Today, we are very honored to invite Mr. Gavin Coates, the Senior Lecturer of Landscape Architecture in Hong Kong U here, to talk to us about the connection of nature and education. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I was born in the UK a very long time ago, and I came to Hong Kong in the 1980s working as a landscape architect.
Right.
And so I've worked in practice in a couple of the projects I worked on. Right, one was Hong Kong Park. So if you go to Hong Kong Park and you see the big waterfall, then that's actually my design from 1986. And,
1986.
And if you live in Yuen Long, right, and if you go to Yuen Long Town Park, then that's another project that I worked on, the design.
Right.
And I worked on various projects, planting trees around the city.
Right.
Yeah.
So we should thank you for all the greeneries in
Oh,
Hong Kong.
no, well, thank the trees. They're the ones who are doing the work.
Okay.
And I also worked as a cartoonist and illustrator for some years.
How did you get into that?
Well, I've always been really interested in plants and trees, and so that's why I wanted to be a landscape architect. But I'm also very interested in the communication, in the ideas behind why we choose to make the environment a certain way.
Right.
And so, I did political cartoons. I did all kinds of cartoons for magazines and things like that. And because I also, at that time, I wanted to work on my own. I wanted to. I didn't want to work in an office, so I spent some time working freelance. Now, the last 5 years, teaching about landscape architecture at Hong Kong U.
And how has that been?
Oh, it's really interesting.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting to see people kind of discovering their interest, discovering new things. And it's a design discipline. Landscape architecture is about design. So it's really interesting working with the students and to help them come up with designs that really make sense and I think are going to help the environment and people in the future.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. I heard that you spend quite a lot of years in your work. So what inspired you interested in nature and landscape?
Okay, I got interested in nature, in natural. Well, in those days we didn't use the word environment very much. I'm talking about the 1960s, right? So, but natural history was what we called it then, and I suppose, developed an interest myself, just going outside and being outside in the garden, and I just got interested in the plants and the animals and the birds and what have you. And but especially I was influenced by my godmother. Right? My godmother lived in the countryside in England, and when I used to go and visit her up in the countryside, she was born and brought up in the countryside there, so she knew all the plants, she knew all the bird names and which bird's song was which and all of this kind of thing. So I think she really inspired me from a very early age, before even 5 years old, to just notice these things and be interested in them, and that interest has shaped my whole career really, from an early age.
Right.
And so that's why I think it's so important for children to have direct.
Well, that is the best age where they learn, right?
Exactly, you learn more in your first 5 years than you do in the next 50. Right. So it's that direct contact with nature, which I think is so important. I mean, I know it was important for me, and I think it's important for everybody.
Totally agree, yes. Yeah.
So in your work, and it's quite a span of work, what's the most memorable event that happened to you? What would you say?
I think one of the things that is so exciting is when you see your design or your drawing or what you had in your mind actually being implemented
Right.
on the ground. Right? So, I mean, for 10 years, from about 2005 to 2015, I worked on a government project called the Greening Master Plan. And we planted, some 25,000 trees in the urban areas of Hong Kong. And it was so exciting being on site. I would have produced a drawing, produced a design. There's a whole process, long-winded process behind that. But then when the truck arrives, with the trees on it, and then the crane comes and lifts those trees up and actually puts them in the ground.
Right.
And you see your design actually
coming to
come
life.
to reality,
Yeah.
bang, just like that.
Right.
And that's really exciting. And so amazing. One particular time was when we were planting trees in the roundabout on Connaught Road and Pedder Street, right next to Exchange Square. And I was standing in the middle of the road, and because of the traffic requirements, they could only deliver the trees at night.
Right.
So this massive crane came in and was lifting these trees into the planting area, and I was standing there, sort of, saying left a bit, right a bit, bring the trees down to the right position. And it was Halloween, and on the footbridges all the way around were all of these ghosts and witches, all looking down at me, standing in the middle of the road junction. So I think that was one of the
quite a night to pick, actually.
It was. Yeah. So these trees arrived at Halloween night, and so that was really quite. Now that was memorable.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the most loved part of your work would be to seeing your designs come to.
It's the whole process, really.
Right.
I mean, it's the whole process of, trying to work out what is the best design for the people that you're designing for, and then the process of actually working it out and drawing it up so that it can be actually implemented, and then.
Do you normally get into a lot of difficulties, as you're doing it?
There are many difficulties. For example, I mean, you may think it's easy, for example, to plant a tree in the street, but it's actually incredibly complicated.
Okay.
Because of the, above the ground there are space limitations. If the footpath is too narrow, you can't put the trees in. There are bus stops, there are visibility lines, for the traffic lights, for pedestrians, for the drivers. There's signage, there's street lighting, there's all kinds of things that you have to take into account. And that's only the physical things. Right. Sometimes people say, I don't want a tree in front of my shop. So
I can imagine.
What can you do?
Imagine people saying
because
that.
some people like it and some people don't.
Right.
And so there's a whole human side to it as well.
Yeah.
And under the ground, there's water pipes, electricity cables, telephone cables, gas pipes, all kinds of things under the ground. So, sometimes you lift the paving up and it's just spaghetti of pipes underneath.
Right.
You can't even fit the tree roots in there.
Oh my.
And apart from that, you've got to, you have to go through the government procedures to arrange temporary traffic arrangements, to put all the cones out and get permission to bring the truck in to deliver the trees, and you have to get an excavation permit, from the government, and so it's very, very complicated process actually just to plant a tree in the street.
Right.
So
I think people should know about that, so that they would treasure the trees a bit more.
Exactly. That makes them even more special.
Right.
Because the effort that goes into planting them is enormous and involves a huge team of people.
Yeah.
I might have designed that particular species for that location, but I don't do it myself. There's a whole team of people involved in making this happen.
Yeah, that's good. I think the most inspire me now is even though you and the team face so many difficulties, but never put you down, then you keep going, you want to make it happen. That is so difficult to do it as well.
Well, one of the things that inspires you, is being able to see the project later on. Right? So, for example, to take you in Longtown Park, I worked on the design in 1986 and 87, something like that. The park was then went through a process of construction, and it was opened in 1990. right? I mean, that's 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I went there just recently, and it's still, it's full of people, and they're enjoying themselves, you know, and they're lying in the grass, and you know, people are playing their iwu, you know, and the paper, you know, and the children are running around, and all the trees now after 30 years have grown up, really impressive. And so just to go and see people using it and enjoying it, and that makes you realise that you made a contribution.
Oh, you definitely
you
made
contributed
a huge
something,
contribution, yes.
And that's what kind of keeps you going. You know, even when there's, even of course, like everything, sometimes you know, it just gets very frustrating.
Yeah.
But you just have to keep doing the best you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I see this little guy here, and it seems like you've brought some books here too. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about them.
This is Earthy.
Earthy.
Earthy, and Earthy is a little.
Fella.
Leo. Earthy is a little characterization of our planet.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I've written some children's books.
Right.
I'll talk a little bit more in a minute about that. But Earthy, what I think with environmental issues is that people think that the environment is something far away and not personal to them. And of course the Earth, the planet, I mean, is much smaller than it used to be. Right? But, I mean, we can travel all the way across the planet just in less than a day now. So the planet is smaller to us, but it's still huge.
Right.
And you can't really think of the Earth as having a personality or a character. Right? So what I'm trying to do really is to say to kids, well, the planet is a personality. It's a character.
Right.
It's your friend. You know? And so when I can maybe talk about one of the books here, this one, Earthy Love, and Earthy can sit over here for a minute.
He does exist.
Earthy is going to... Yes.
Yes. I was about to offer to hold him, but I guess not.
He's very well behaved.
Right.
So, I mean, this is one book that I wrote about
Is that the
Earthy.
first book that you wrote?
It's not the first one.
It's not.
No, but it's the one that I think encapsulates what I'm trying to say about Earthy. We're going to, you know, we'll read it another time. I'll read it another time. But basically, it's about it's Earthy Love. Earthy is your friend, right? And so after I've read the story, then I say to the kids, well, if Earthy's your friend, you know, what are you going to do? And you know, they say, oh, you know, we're going to love Earthy. And so it makes the. I know it's a bit. Well, obviously it's childish, you know, but it's fun. It's trying to make the environmental issue fun and engaging, but also personal.
Right.
You know, so that I feel like I'm part of the world, you know, and the world is part of me, which is the truth. Right? That's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And then this one, the Last Nut, which we'll also read later. This was my first book.
This was your first one.
Yeah. And
in fact, can I ask, like, what inspired you to be writing children's books? I mean, I know that you illustrate and all that, and of course you care about the environment, but why kids?
Well, it's a very good question, because you know, when you write a book or you illustrate a book, normally you've got no idea. I mean, nobody pays you to do it, right? So it's you have to you have to make that investment of time and effort and thought into doing it with no idea whether this is going to be worthwhile. So, but I think one of the things that inspired me to write this one was the birth of my son, right, who's now 30. And but you know, when you having a child forces you to do, it forces you to face up to responsibility. You become responsible for somebody other than yourself. And I suppose that also made me think, well, you know, in his lifetime, you know, if and when he has children in their lifetimes, what's going to happen to the planet? What's going to happen to the environment that we live in? It's changed dramatically since I was a small child.
Right.
And so I think that was a big inspiration for me.
Right.
You
Is
know,
there a
so
common theme to the books that you've written?
There
advices for
there
kids?
certainly is. It's about the issue of the environment being a personal issue, and I think that I would like to leave that as a surprise.
Right.
For
our
later.
readers, perhaps.
Yeah. And as before, you mentioned that why your son inspired you. I think in a way that you want to pass on the message from
Yes.
the next generation.
Yes.
Yeah, like
I think that children
keep passing on.
Yeah. But I think children are naturally curious and naturally interested, and
Right.
they, you know, it's actually sometimes our society or the way that we arrange things that actually obstructs children from making a natural connection with the natural world.
Yeah.
If they're allowed to do it, they just do it
Yeah.
all by themselves. You know. But the situation now, especially for people brought up in a very urban
Most Hong Kong kids would try,
environment, you know, that connection with nature is simply not available or not there in the same way. So I suppose in a way these books are, and planting trees in the street, these
Right.
are both ways of trying to make that reconnection, you know, trying to make a connection again between people and the environment.
All your books is about the nature, yeah? How kids can benefit from learning, playing in the natural environment? What is the connection between learning?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, tremendous. I think it's very fundamental. I mean, as I mentioned before, in my own experience, you know, in my own childhood, you know, I mean, the fact that we did things like go pick blackberries in the wood, you know, or go and dig out some clay from a stream to make something, you know, I mean, or follow the progress of birds nesting, you know, in the hedge or something like this. All of this is really important, and although it's not academic. Right. It's not a kind of it's not something that you think of as being an academic achievement, but it's basic knowledge that we should all have.
I think a lot of the kids are lacking that nowadays because
Yes.
they spend all their energy in academia.
In a way, it's also related, you know, to the children's often have a lack of freedom in an urban situation.
Right.
You can't just run around, you know, because the traffic, you know, is dangerous. So you can't just, you know, kick the kids out of the door and you know, and then hope they'll come back at tea time, you know, 8 hours later.
That would be nice.
Well, it's great. I mean, one of the reasons that we lived on Lama Island when my son was small, and so I mean he had all of that contact, you know, with all of those things that I just mentioned: tree climbing, going out to the beach, you know, sometimes swimming, and fish would jump, and all this kind of thing. This is something that gives you an instinctive connection and love for the environment, even though you may not consciously think that that's happening.
When you talk about think, I think the natural environment do give the child, like as you said before, also your godmother, like inspire you in your early childhood. I think in indoor, the kids learn how to cannot learn exactly what is plan and choose. Let me give you an example. For example, if the kid running on the uneven road or uneven hill or ground, or even on the beach, they need to think how they can do it before they take the action. So, or the other example, like they're going to pick a stick and then throw it. They will see what their ability can do it or not. They can see the consequence. So for the whole process, they actually think about what they should do, what they shouldn't do in the natural environment, which is indoor cannot give it to them at all.
I mean, indoor environment, obviously it simply can't replicate being outdoors. You know, I mean, you can watch a million videos and a million TV programs about, you know, swimming, but you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it really means until you jump or are thrown into the water, right? And then you understand then you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, but so the television and the information sources that are available now are extremely useful, but they're only backup information.
Definitely.
You need a base, you need a foundation of information,
Right.
which you can only get by experiencing the outdoor world. You have to feel the sand between your toes. You have to feel the icy wind on your face. You know, you have to feel the rain, smell the soil,
Yeah.
right? And in order to understand what this thing is, you need to climb a tree in order to really experience what the essence of a tree is. You know, I mean, I can show you 1,000 pictures of a tree, but you will never know what I'm talking about until you've climbed one,
Right.
Yeah.
or until you've picked fruit from one, or you've interacted with one physically. And that can only happen physically. Yeah.
Yeah, that is. You just mentioned about all this thing that I would like to ask you. What do you think about the virtual world? Do you think the virtual world can replace the natural environment? Because you know nowadays the virtual world, they can do like wind, they can make sound, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you just mentioned that very. I think it's a very good point for parents or the next generation to think about what is the natural environment meant about.
Yeah.
I think the natural environments give us the way that we can only achieve by thinking ahead. We do everything. We need to achieve something in the natural environment by thinking ahead. That is very different from the virtual world that we're just receiving.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, of course, the virtual world, technology that we have now, I mean, it is so fantastic. In many ways, I mean, I was 30 before I ever saw a desktop computer, right? So I come from I was brought up in an age when it was just science fiction.
Yeah.
I mean, what we see now is completely science fiction. Now the idea that I can sit on a ferry or on the bus and I can look up anything on Google and just get information. I mean, that's fantastic.
Right.
You know, I mean, what used to take a whole day of traipsing up and down in the library, now you can do in 10 seconds on your phone, right? Anywhere. I mean, this is really amazing, and it can introduce you to all kinds of experiences and interesting things that you wouldn't otherwise know about. Right. But it cannot. It cannot replace the physical experience.
Right.
So I think you need both. I mean, in this world, you've got to be technically literate, right? But that, to me, doesn't mean much unless you've got that basis of experience and information. And when I say information, I'm not talking about digital information. I'm talking about
Actual
physical information.
Right.
Like how heavy is 2 gallons of water?
Yeah.
I mean, why does a sandcastle stand up when it's wet, but when it's not wet? And what you were saying about looking into the future or planning ahead. Yes, we do need to do that, but nature is also full of surprises.
Totally.
You can't plan ahead. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. So nature is often working on a different time scale, and especially now we expect everything to happen, like this.
Yeah.
But nature doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes it does, and it will scare the living daylights out of you. But the seasons come and go slowly compared to what we are used to in the virtual world.
Right.
But they're much more exciting and much more interesting because those surprises are coming slowly. They're unfolded before your eyes. It's not just da 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 da, in your face all the time.
Right.
So,
Okay, so Gavin, what would you say is the role of an environmentalist in society nowadays?
Well, I suppose the role of an environmentalist has been, up until now, right, has been to introduce people to the environment around them and to explain what it's about and to warn people is going to happen if you don't look after the environment or you damage the environment.
Right.
But I think now we are, the situation is really critical. So much damage has been done to the environment that we affect everything.
Right.
Every single part of the world is affected by our actions, and I wouldn't even want there to be a special classification of people as environmentalists anymore. I mean, we all are.
We all should be.
We all need to be.
Yes, that's
well,
true.
not even should be. We need to be. I mean, where else does anybody live except on this planet? I mean, there isn't anybody anywhere else. There's nobody on the moon. There's nobody on Mars, and there's nobody anywhere else. So we're stuck here, and the idea that we're going to go somewhere else is a nonsense. Because even if somebody did manage to go somewhere else, it will be only a handful of people.
Right.
And so we are here for better or worse. And so I don't think that there should be a special group of people who are environmentalists.
Right.
I think everybody needs to find the environmentalist within the...
Right.
And I think as from the education system, I think the education system should educate the kids. They want to be, not just need to, should be, and they want to, because this is actual Mr. Earthy.
I think it comes naturally.
Yeah.
I mean, if you allow children to freedom to explore the natural world and to be in that natural world, and you are explaining things and doing things and experiencing things together, then you don't need to, educate in the sense you don't need to force that in.
Right.
It's actually they blossom like that. They find that out by themselves, and so it's a discovery together. So I think education should be a voyage of discovery together, not something that you just kind of tip into somebody's head. And so the environment, I mean, the natural world is made for that.
Is that a big worry of yours, though? Like the disconnect between the need to educate them and the actual ability to educate the children?
Well, I think the whole disconnection, between people and our industrialized and technological society is the disconnect between that and the natural world is a disaster. Yeah, and we haven't even seen the beginning of the disaster yet. It's just starting. So, but it can be fixed, or it can fix itself. Very. It's amazing the healing power that the environment and the earth has.
I think maybe everyone start from the family. That maybe there's a chance to fix it.
Yes, and I think that's partly the idea behind Earthy, because Earthy is a friend of the family, if you like.
Right.
Earthy is a personality.
Right.
We are all, in the sense that we are all on the earth, we are all a family. Whether we like it or not.
We're in it together.
For
sure.
You don't. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not, or whether you appreciate it or not. That's just the way it is.
Okay. Do you think then the problem can be fixed if we start from the family?
Yes, I think so. I mean, from the traditional kind of a family unit. Yes. Because it's about relationships. The whole thing is about relationships. The relationship within the family is so important, and then from the family outwards to your society, and eventually to all of us. We're all here, and so for better or worse, we're all one family on the earth. So, and that's part of the point about this Earthy books and project is it's about relationships. So the relationships that we have, when we talk about relationships, we think, oh yeah, a relationship with my mum or my dad or my sister or my son or my daughter or whatever it is. there's another relationship. There are other relationships on a bigger scale.
Right.
You know, there's a relationship with the whole of your society. There's the relationship also with the planet. And people don't
really think
they
like that.
don't think of that as a relationship.
Right.
You know, but it is. You know, it is a relationship. And in fact we are totally dependent on it. You know, we're totally dependent on this system.
Yeah.
Which serves, you know, which serves, well, I mean, it functions by itself, with or without us. I mean, we can disappear tomorrow and it'll work better, you know. but you know, we can work with, you know, we need to work with this system.
Okay.
And that's why we need to foster a relationship with it, I think.
Okay. By fostering the relationship, So what is your dream project? How to fostering the whole relationship?
That's a big question. In a way, I think I've been unknowingly kind of working towards something. I mean, when I look at my whole career, going back to the landscape design work, you know, the tree planting projects, the children's books, the cartoon work, and even the political cartoons that I used to do, they're all connected in a sense, right?
Yeah.
They're all connected to this issue that we were just talking about. So, in a way, my ideal project would probably have a little bit of everything. I mean, it would have a bit of, it would, I suppose, you know, it must have something to do with planting, and it must have something to do with, you know, repair of the environment.
Right.
The correlated
but it's also got to have something to do with the relationship and the communications. You know, the story. The story itself is a way of communicating. You know, we communicate in stories, and we understand stories. You know, it's an instinctive thing we've done since our species began. You know, sitting around in a group telling stories to one another.
Right.
So this is so that way of communicating, that way of getting people to think about, you know, to think about things. I think all of these things, but I mean, I'm still working it out.
Yeah.
I still haven't. I'm still, you know. I mean, I'm you know, I mean, I'm 62, and I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up.
You grow
Still plenty of time. Still plenty of time.
So I think maybe the dream project at the end, your goal may be that everyone on this planet, they want to be, they need to be, they should be an environmentalist.
They need to be, yeah. I mean, in a way, you know, if you're working as a landscape architect, I should be working to make that profession redundant. Right? It should not exist. Because the world should be.
Everybody should be
if
doing.
the world was all just fine.
They're doing
There's no need for me. So people would say to me, "Oh, you're a landscape architect in Hong Kong. How can you be that?" You know, and I say, "Well, the beautiful places don't need landscape architects. It's the ugly places that need landscape architects, right? So, you know, the developing places, you know, so all the new towns needed parks and, you know, tree planting and what have you. So and it's the same way, you know, there should not even be a category called environmentalist. There's just a category called human.
Right.
And so I think that you
That's quite a goal to try to achieve.
well, that brings up the other point, which is you cannot possibly do it on your own.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't do anything on your own. You know, the idea that the idea that there is some kind of superhero who's going to fly in and save us all, forget it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, you're the superhero,
Right.
or you are a component of the superhero.
Maybe
Or
Marvel should come up with like a
you're part
movie
of the
for that.
super team, you know,
Right.
and so all of these people who are no longer environmentalists are part of that super team.
Right.
It's no good just sitting there waiting for somebody else to come and fix it.
Yeah.
it's not going to happen like that.
I'm totally in this super team. We are in. How about you? So thanks so much for such fascinating suggestions and sharings that dig further into how we can do more, help our kids to learn more and love our Earth by taking action. And thank you so much to Mr. Earthy as well. And thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay. And I hope that this video will help you how to do more with your kids. And thank you so much,
Thank you.
Mr. Gavin. And I hope that we see you next time in the Tech and Talk Show. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.